We welcome you to our virtual regional conference where we'll be addressing you on the topic of meeting the developmental needs of young children via a speech. Our presenters are Carissa Blutcher, Indrauti Lagley, Joanna Ibamino, Kelisha Pompey, and Carol Spence Chambers. Do enjoy. I am deeply elated to be able to address the extent to which the developmental needs of young children are being met through this speech. In Article 28 of the Convention on the Rights of a Child, it highlighted that every child has the right to be provided with equitable learning opportunities. Equitable learning opportunities refers to equality regarding access to learning environments, equal treatment of children by members in the learning community, and support for every child's diverse needs. University at Buffalo, 2023. In order to encourage developmentally appropriate practices, the National Association for the Education of Young Children, no date, developed a position statement that outlined 9 principles and 10 standards that should be used as guidelines by stakeholders in the early childhood sector. Nonetheless, as these principles and standards are examined in the Caribbean region, the question of the extent to which they are being achieved needs to be researched. Moreover, it is imperative that careful examination be done to decipher the gaps that hinder the provision of equitable learning opportunities for children. It is through this examination that recommendations can be made to address the issues that deter children from receiving these equitable learning opportunities. As a result, greater strides will be made in the Caribbean region to achieve the principles and standards that have been outlined by the National Association for the Education of Young Children to ensure that every child receives equitable learning opportunities that they rightfully deserve. The National Association for the Education of Young Children, no date, listed 9 principles that are effective in promoting developmentally appropriate practices. Principle 1. There is a relationship between a child's biological development and the environment that they are in. During the early childhood period, specifically during the first 3 years, a child's brain forms neural connections which are responsible for thinking, communicating, and learning. It is essential that the adults in the child's environment are equipped with the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to support the development of these connections. Adversely, a child's brain development is affected negatively when a child is not given the responsive care that they need, leading to chronic stress. Principle 2. Every domain that is concerned with the development of a child is significant and they support each other. To address each of these domains in the early childhood education, intentional teaching strategies should be used. Moreover, the curriculum that is developed should be comprehensive, catering to all the developmental domains. Principle 3. Play is essential throughout the early childhood period as it caters to the holistic development of children. It develops fine motor and gross motor skills, improves emotional and social development, and allows children to make sense of the world around them. Educators need to maximize play opportunities to develop activities that support the unique needs of children. Principle 4. Consideration needs to be given to the different experiences and cultural contexts of children. Children have different cultures, including their languages and the different ways of doing things. Teachers need to be aware of these contexts in order to support children. Principle 5. Children learn actively. and form meaning through interactions, relationships, and experiences in the environment. It is the role of educators to develop environments that facilitate exploration and significant experiences for children to develop skills in all the domains. Principle 6. Children's learning environments need to connect their experiences in school to those at home and in the community. There needs to be a sense of belonging and purpose in the early childhood setting. Educators need to be aware of the differences of the students and encourage them to choose and create meaningful experiences that reflect their interest and culture. Principle 7. Teachers need to be equipped with the knowledge of the subject areas in early childhood, as well as the progressions of each subject area and the pedagogy of the content in each subject. This means that educators in the early childhood sector need to have qualifications in the area of early childhood education to be most effective in meeting children's developmental needs. Principle 8. Children should be challenged to improve on the current level of mastery in any area through opportunities provided by early childhood educators. Educators need to be aware of each child's learning progress. This is how they will know what other steps they can take to help children master certain skills and present challenges to children. Principle 9. Technological tools and interactive media should be used intentionally to support children's development. We are teaching 21st century learners, and it is so significant to understand that these children develop certain skills through the use of technology and are able to understand concepts better through interactive media. I now hand you over to Kelisha, who is going to address the standards in the association.
I will now highlight the standards by the National Association of the Education of Young Children. Standards 1. Relationships. The curriculum emphasizes the value of healthy interactions between children and adults in developing a feeling of self-worth and belonging. These connections are essential for personal accountability, regulation by themselves, productive interactions, and academic performance. Interactions that are warm, empathic, and responsive develop a secure sense of oneself, respect, collaboration, and the advantages of educational experiences. Standard 2. Curriculum. The program standard defines a curriculum that encourages learning in all the areas of social, emotional, physical, linguistic, and cognitive development. A well-articulated curriculum assists instructors in identifying concepts, skills, and approaches for promoting the growth of students. It assists instructors in developing daily plans that optimize learning via playtime, play materials, independently initiated learning, and imaginative play, while also providing chances for both and private education. Standard 3. Teaching. The syllabus employs a variety of instructional methods to boost the learning and growth of every child within the framework of the curriculum goals. Structured to unstructured, adult-directed to child-directed, these options are available when selecting and executing instructional techniques. Teachers take into account children's cultures, passions, occasions, and educational styles. To handle the complexities of teaching circumstances and promote children's positive learning in all areas, a range of successful instructional techniques are required. Standard 4. Assessment of child progress. Teachers' expertise assists in the construction of challenging curriculum receiving supportive supervision, and participating in professional development. The program standard includes continuing assessment procedures that entails reciprocal contact with families and cultural settings to offer information on children's learning and development. The findings of assessment influences choices, instruction, and program improvement. Standard 5. Health. The health program standard supports children's health and well-being while safeguarding them from disease and harm. Health is crucial for schooling and overall well-being. Children depend on adults to make good decisions and learn. A good program keeps dangerous activities and settings from having negative repercussions. Standard 6. Staff competencies, preparation, and support. The program assists instructors who have educational credentials and a professional dedication to promoting children's development and meeting the different requirements of families. Teachers with a high formal education and specialized early childhood preparation and aid children by interacting with them warmly, providing rich language experiences, and establishing high quality learning settings. Standard 7. Families. Recognizing the significance of families, the program builds collaborative partnerships with them in order to encourage children's growth. It emphasizes the value of trust, respect, and participation in children's educational development, including families, in the program's achievement. Standard 8. Community relationships. Establishing connections with children's communities to support program goals such as educational program, promoting wellness, transitions, inclusion, and diversity is a program requirement. This improves the accessibility of families to resources that promote healthy growth and learning. Standard 9. Physical environment. The program standard offers a physically safe and well maintained environment for students to learn and grow. The well organized, well equipped, and well maintained environment promotes excellent activities and services for children, families, and staff, supporting learning, convenience, health, and safety. Standard 10. Leadership and Management. This program standard provides stable staff, solid personnel, fiscal, and administration of the program, and excellent opportunities for children, families, and staff. Effective management and well-functioning management provides foster an atmosphere favorable to excellent education and health care, while supporting economic responsibility, effective interaction, and continual improvement. I will now hand over to Ms. Carol.
The National Association for the Education of Young Children has established 9 principles and 10 guidelines. As mentioned earlier, that serves as a guideline for the holistic development of children during their early years. In order to meet the developmental needs of all children, all early childhood institutions must adhere to these criteria and principles. In the Caribbean region, several countries have made effort to adhere to the governmental regulations and norms that support these standards and principles. To what extent has the Caribbean region attained? Are they enforcing and adhering to the standards set by the National Association for the Education of Young Children? By asking a few questions and obtaining statistics from some Caribbean countries, this question can be answered. Are all children in the Caribbean region provided with free early childhood education? According to Ronarine and Yildrim 2018, preschool education is costly in Dominica, while in Trinidad and Tobago it is free, but parents must pay for uniform, meals, and transportations. Non-governmental organizations have varying transportation requirements. The Caribbean region has a plan to provide fair and consistent standards for preschool education. In Trinidad and Tobago, over 1,000 preschools serve 70% of the children aged 3 to 5, with only 150 being run by the government. In Dominica, preschool enrollment has dropped from 82% in 1997 to 1998 to less than 55% in 2006. Looking at the Cayman Island data has clearly shown that some children are left behind in getting a proper education in ECC because of lack of finances. According to Austin 2023, Caymanian children who turn 3 by September 1st can qualify for Early Childhood Assistance Program ECAP assistant, which can be up to $500 per month or $305 per month after they have been tested to a certain qualification for the center. However, only one center monthly costs are under $500, and lower socioeconomic centers receive weak to satisfactory inspection scores, indicating inequalities in access to quality early childhood care and education. Our early childhood educators qualified with the knowledge and skill required to support the developmental needs of children. Principle 7. How many of the Caribbean region enforce certification of teachers in early childhood? In the Cayman Islands, current Education Council guideline requires only one licensed teacher to 10 untrained teachers, which can lead to disparity in the quality of education provided. Additionally, this licensed teacher may not be an early childhood specialist and could be a manager or owner not involved in education. Austin 2023. In Trinidad and Tobago, the provision of education teacher training has some limitations. A study conducted revealed that the Ministry of Education in Trinidad and Tobago needs to improve the provision of education services in school. Sharon and Sithal 2018. Meanwhile, training programs are available. They are restricted in availability. As a result, there is a notable need of enhanced education teacher training. The existing resources are inadequate to establish inclusive classrooms effectively. Are the curricula in the Caribbean nation developmentally appropriate and cater to diversity and inclusion? Cayman Island does not have a curriculum. What the island has is a framework for schools to use as a guide in their planning. The current inspection framework was not designed to be a universal tool for assessing early childhood education. The Office for Standards in Education can improve communication by developing a specialized assessment framework for early childhood education. This would enable more accurate recognition of the strength and weakness of early childhood education, as well as self-improvement opportunities. Aston J. 2023. Although the Trinidad and Tobago Spices curriculum emphasizes the all-around development of children, there's an oversight of preschool centers in which custodial care is prioritized rather than topics. They mention that preschool education is seldom emphasized, even though studies show that it is important for a child's development. Also, there is little state monitoring of what happens at the country preschool center when it comes to the curriculum. School of Education 2015 to 2020. Ms. Indrati will inform us on the gaps that affect the achievement of these guidelines in the Caribbean region. Thank you.
Understanding the significance of early childhood learning is just as important as providing early childhood care. Across the Caribbean, major gaps in early childhood development standards and regulations have been identified. Some of these gaps are as follows. Gap 1, inequity for young children, and failure to recognize the benefits of diversity. Regional data suggested that a lack of access to early childhood education mostly impacts children from low-income households, children who live in rural areas, and especially indigenous children and children with disability, UNICEF 2020 cited UNICEF 2016. A consensus conducted in Trinidad and Tobago revealed that 3,302 children with disability, which is about 1% of the child population, are suffering. Sitahal Mirage not dated. Currently, there are 175 government and government-assisted ECCE centers serving almost 6,000 students. In addition, there are 678 registered private ECCE centers that serve about 18,000 children. These centers serve around 24,000 children aged 3 to 5 years, out of the total population of slightly more than 34,000. This means that about 12,000 children at the level are excluded from formal and informal education. Sitahal, Mirage, not dated. Unless changes can be made towards these children, the future of thousands of disadvantaged and vulnerable children, and also the futures of their society, will be jeopardized. Across in Guyana, the indigenous community are affected by language barrier and the cultural norms of other community. UNESCO 2021. These vulnerable young children are deprived simply because they have a unique need or live in a less populated area. Fact 2. Untrained staff results in poor quality of ECCE service. A letter to the editor of the Trinidad Newsday, written by Hing 2019, alleged that preschools have opened up all over the country and that children are being handed over to unqualified teachers. In Trinidad and Tobago, early childhood educators or administrators at the government or government-assisted ECCE centers are required to have either a bachelor's in education in ECCE or a master's in education, while the teacher's assistant and auxiliary staff possess either a certificate or a bachelor's in education in ECCE. Yet, there are still unqualified teachers in the system. Ministry of Education 2019. The risk of being given to less experienced or untrained persons to influence and tutor emotionally vulnerable children is a risk that can permanently damage and sometimes weaken children's learning. UNICEF 2020 reviewed the 2012 OECD lecture on the quality of ECE programs and found strong evidence linking teachers' qualification and ongoing professional development opportunities to impact teacher-child interaction. However, most teachers are underqualified in early childhood centers. If a child care provider is untrained or inexperienced, the result will be harmful to the child's development and a waste of professional development resources. Gap 3. Lack of financing for early childhood education. Every year, during the national budget, millions of dollars are allocated to the education sector. But how many of this has been spent on early childhood education? The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines budget mentioned many areas of the education system receive funding, such as primary, secondary, tertiary, yet there is no mention of the early childhood sector. The allocation of $27 million for expenditure in education, including $16.3 million to build or upgrade schools. Government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines not dated. Without additional support for underfunded sector of the education system from the government or other stakeholders, we risk reversing success, forcing children out of early childhood education and destroying a generation crucially early learning foundations.
Recommendations for the gaps identified. Addressing gap number 1. Inequity for young children and failure to recognize the benefits of diversity. Point number 1. Engage in families and communities. Parental participation benefits students of all ethnic backgrounds when schools learn about, acknowledge, and use families, community knowledge and practices. It can help reduce the barriers of creating effective partnerships where the home and school context differs. Educators can include families in the classroom activities, provide opportunities for cultural exchange, and solicit feedback from families on how to build a welcoming environment. And this was taken from Hood and Hardware's 2019. According to ABHE 2023, a child's development is impacted by interactions with their immediate and larger social context. European Friends Ecological System Theory emphasizes the impact of multiple environments on a child's development. Therefore, multi-agencies collaboration among the various agencies, experts, and organizations working together can improve a child's well-being and development. Point number 2, promote inclusive practices. Incorporating materials, publications, and images from other cultures, races, abilities, and family arrangements establishes a school climate that celebrates and embraces diversity. This was according to Tanvangar 2017. Educators who support inclusion are more likely to employ instructional practices that caters to the learning styles of all children. Inclusive classrooms also help children's academic, emotional, and social growth in numerous ways. This is according to Walden University 2022. Point number 3, integrate multicultural curriculum. When instructors are encouraged to incorporate multicultural topics into their classroom plans, this can include investigating various cultures, customs, and points of views to stories, music, arts, and activities, and this is according to Goffin 2013. Addressing gap number 2, inadequate staff training and poor quality of early childhood care and education services. Point number 1, strengthen teacher certification and prerequisites. This entails implementing or improving certification requirements for early childhood educators, ensuring that they achieve specified educational prerequisites, and participating in ongoing development, and this is according to Rao et al. 2022. According to a study published in the journal Early Childhood Research Quarterly, early childhood educators who participated in ongoing professional development were more likely to use evidence-based instructional practices. Addressing gap number 3, lack of financing for early childhood education. Point number 1, working with multi-agencies. According to the Global Education Monitoring Report Team 2021, this involves offering free or subsidized early childhood education to children from low-income families. Educators can join forces with local organizations, parents, and community members to improve financing for early childhood education. Also, they can use their democratic rights to campaign for proper financing of early childhood education by contacting lawmakers, writing letters, and organizing public awareness campaigns. Point number 2, seek partnerships and collaboration. According to UNESCO 2020, educators can explore collaborations with local businesses, non-governmental organizations, or charitable organizations that are interested in promoting early childhood education. Collaboration with these organizations can aid in the acquisition of new resources and funds. Point number 3, education and skill development. According to Caribbean Journal Staff 2016, NGOs can provide scholarships, education materials, and infrastructures to help improve learning conditions. NGOs also can provide vocational training programs to equip individuals with skills for improved employment possibilities, ultimately improving the livelihoods of households. Point number 4, applying for grants and funding opportunities. According to UNESCO 2020, educators can actively seek grants and funding opportunities aimed specifically at early childhood education. This can include national or international grants as well as scholarships or sponsorships. Addressing gap number 4, inadequate health and nutrition for young children. Point number 1, strengthen school feeding programs. According to Head Start ECL KC 2023, it states implementing or improving school feeding programs to ensure that children have access to nutritious meals during the school's day is important. These programs can be quite beneficial in addressing dietary deficits.
Research also shows that the Head Start programs and governments in the Caribbean generally try to offer a balanced and nutritious meals to young children. This includes ensuring enough servings of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, proteins, and healthy fats in the meals offered on the school's feeding programs. Point number 2, improve nutrition education. According to the World Health Organization 2019, educating parents and carers on the need for a well-balanced diet, meal planning, and adequate food preparation procedures is important. Also, educating children on the dangers of eating too many sugary and processed food is also important. I will now hand you over to Joanna, who will conclude this presentation.
In this speech, it was made clear all the principles and standards that should be aimed at in the Caribbean region to ensure that children are receiving equitable learning opportunities. As thorough research was done, the evidence presented revealed that the Caribbean region still has to take more strides in order to achieve the guidelines for developmentally appropriate practice. The reason for this is because the gaps have been identified in the Caribbean region shows that equitable learning opportunities are not fully given to all children. The gaps mentioned were inequality and the lack of knowledge by stakeholders in understanding the importance of diversity. Also, the lack of training and substandard quality of early childhood service, poor financing of early childhood education, and insufficient health services and nutrition provided for all children. It is imperative that the recommendations given be adhered to in order to get closer to the goal of equitable opportunities for children. Greater collaboration between partners involved in the early childhood sector is necessary. Standardized education policies as it relates to teacher qualification, pedagogy, and the curriculum needs to be developed, adhered to, and revisited to ascertain its effectiveness. And there definitely needs to have allocated funds and proper financing for the early childhood sector. Meeting the developmental needs of all children is a goal that all the stakeholders in the sector need to aim towards, and regular assessments need to be made to examine whether this goal is being achieved. I thank you.